They said it was impossible, that we were decades away, that cloning a fully functional conscious human being was a fantasy, science fiction, but that was a lie. It happened. In 2032. And I saw it with my own eyes. I worked in a level 7 facility, buried under 3 kilometers of rock and ice in Greenland, officially labeled as a genetic virology lab. In reality, it was one of the most advanced bioengineering installations on the planet. We didn't study viruses. We studied life. How? To manipulate it, rewrite it, and replicate it. I was a systems analyst. I wasn't supposed to know the details, but one day during a routine backup of encrypted data clusters, I found a folder that didn't belong. No label, no code, just a date. 1209-2232. Inside were 6 video files, no audio, no metadata, just footage. The first showed a person, naked, shivering, covered in fluid, gasping for air on a medical table, eyes wide, terrified, alive. But here's the thing. I recognized him. His name was Dr. Elijah Granger. He was a senior researcher, brilliant, arrogant, a total control freak. He died in a lab, accident 3 months earlier, burned alive in an explosion caused by a synthetic stem cell overload. We had a funeral. I spoke at it. So how was he on that table? Moving, breathing, looking around in confusion like a child seeing the world for the first time. I watched all 6 videos, each one showing a new subject, different ages, different backgrounds, all of them exact genetic matches, to people who were officially declared dead, people with no next of kin, people no one would ask about, clones, perfect copies, not just of appearance, but of memory. Because the breakthrough in 2032 wasn't just replicating a body, it was transferring consciousness, digitized identity, memories, habits, voice patterns, uploaded, stored, and re-injected into a cloned neural network. It was supposed to be impossible, but they did it and they didn't stop. Once perfected, cloning became the ultimate tool for control. Need a politician who never disobeys? Clone 1. Program his past. Need a soldier who doesn't question orders? Clone 10. Make them believe they were born for war. Need someone to take the fall for a crime? Create a version of them that's guilty and let the public see it. Do you understand what I'm saying? Since 2032, you've been watching replacements walking beside them, voting for them, maybe living with one, maybe you are one. And the worst part? They never meant to stop at copying. That was just phase 1, because the next generation of clones, they aren't based on the past. They're engineered for the future. And if you think you're still in control, you're already too late. After I watched those videos, I couldn't sleep, I couldn't eat. I couldn't think without feeling the walls closing in. Everywhere I looked, every face I passed in the halls, I wondered, is that really them? Or is it one of the copies? I started digging deeper, not into the systems, not into the digital archives, into the personnel, their habits, their inconsistencies, their patterns, and what I found terrified me. It started small. Researchers who suddenly became different, not physically. Physically, they were flawless, but something behind their eyes, something missing. The jokes didn't land the same way. The small gestures, the private memories, gone. Replaced by rehearsed smiles and mechanical responses. You could almost hear the script running beneath their words. That's when I knew. The replacement wasn't random. It was targeted. They weren't cloning the average citizen. They were replacing the influential ones, the scientists, the politicians, the media figures, anyone who held the strings that shaped reality for the masses. And it was working. Have you ever wondered why, starting around 2032, public discourse became sterilized? Why? Outrage started to feel manufactured. Why rebellion, real rebellion, evaporated overnight? Because the people who would have led it weren't people anymore. They were constructs, synthetic reflections of humanity, and the real ones, silenced, disappeared, erased from memory, slowly, methodically, until all that remained were their replacements, perfect, loyal, silent. I learned about something called the Continuity Protocol, a secret directive embedded into government and corporate structures worldwide. It had one purpose: preserve stability at any cost. At first, the architects of the protocol believed simple control would be enough. Media manipulation, economic pressure, surveillance. But humans, real humans, are chaotic by nature, unpredictable, defiant. The Continuity Protocol realized that no amount of force or propaganda could fully guarantee obedience, not without changing the people themselves, not without rebuilding society from the inside out, one replacement at a time. And so cloning became not an experiment, but a solution. Imagine it. Senator too radical, quietly replaced. A journalist digging too deep, gone. Their clone steering the narrative. A military commander hesitant to follow orders, replaced with a version that lives to obey. Even celebrities, icons, cultural leaders. Why? Because culture shapes belief, and belief shapes reality. Control. The voices. Control the minds, control the future. I realized then, this wasn't an invasion. This wasn't conquest. It was evolution, guided, sculpted, forged in secrecy. A version of humanity engineered not to rebel, not to question, not to dream beyond permitted limits. And it was already too late because the replacements, they weren't clumsy copies anymore. They were learning, adapting, growing smarter with each generation, blending so perfectly that even the ones who created them couldn't always tell the difference. And the most horrifying part? Some of them didn't, even though they were clones. Their memories were so complete, so perfect that they believed they were the originals. They felt authentic, and if they believe it, if they act like it, does it even matter anymore? I thought the clones were the endgame. I thought their plan was simple. Control the influencers, replace the rebels, pacify the world. But I was wrong. So wrong. The replacements, the first-generation clones, were only phase 1. They weren't designed to rule. They were designed to prepare, to create a world ready for the next step. I found the files buried deep inside the facility's restricted archives, files marked with a simple name, the Purity Directive. Inside, I found blueprints for something far more terrifying than just individual cloning. It was a full blueprint for genetic convergence, a roadmap to erase human unpredictability altogether. The goal wasn't just to clone the powerful, it was to clone everyone. Phase 2 was mass production. Billions of humans, each born in controlled environments, customized down to the neuron to fit perfectly into the roles society needed. Workers, leaders, soldiers, entertainers, not raised by chance, manufactured by design. No more random mutations, no more unpredictable genius, no more chaotic revolutionaries, just a perfect, stable species, obedient, efficient, uniform. Each new birth would be engineered to believe they were the result of natural life. Parents selected by genetic compatibility databases, memories seeded carefully in infancy, emotions programmed within safe, manageable parameters. Love? Yes, but only the kinds that strengthened loyalty to the system. Anger? Only when directed at state-approved targets. Creativity? Permitted, within boundaries that reinforced cultural narratives. They didn't just want to replace individuals, they wanted to replace the entire human race. One generation at a time, without anyone ever realizing it. No wars, no revolutions, no mass graves, just assimilation. Quiet, inevitable. I realized it when I looked at the projections. By 2080, under the Purity Directive's timeline, 0% of the global population would be natural. 0. Every man, woman, and child would be a custom-designed product of an invisible factory. And here's the most horrifying part. You wouldn't know if you were one of them, because they perfected the technology not just to replicate life, but to replicate consciousness. Your memories, your dreams, your regrets, your ambitions, all simulated, all programmed. And if you believe you're real, are you? That's the ultimate trap. Identity itself becomes meaningless. Freedom becomes an illusion so perfect that it doesn't even need to be enforced. And if no one remembers what it meant to be truly free, to be flawed, to be human, Then the war is over, without a shot fired, without a single banner raised, just a slow, seamless transition into a future where every soul is owned before it's even born, where rebellion is not crushed, because it simply doesn't occur. Because the ability to even imagine rebellion will be designed out of existence. Looked at the projections again. I saw the timeline and I realized it's already begun. Maybe it began decades ago. Maybe you, reading this, are already part of it. A product. A perfect echo of a dream long forgotten. And now, as I sit here, recording what might be the last unsanctioned thought I'll ever have, I wonder, will anyone even care? Will anyone even want to fight? Or are we already too comfortable inside the cage? Already too numb to hear the lock click shut? Already too rewritten to even recognize the bars? When I finished reading the last file, I just sat there. In that cold, humming room surrounded by machines older than memory, blinking under the weight of a future already decided. At first, I felt rage, a raw, blinding fury that clawed at my chest. We had been betrayed. Everything that made us human, our chaos, our flaws, our stubborn hope, it had been targeted for elimination, edited out like typos in a manuscript. And they had done it so perfectly. No wars, no uprisings, no martyrs, just silence. But after the rage came something worse. Doubt. What if they were right? What if human nature, with all its violence, hatred, cruelty, was a threat not just to ourselves but to the universe? Maybe they weren't destroying humanity. Maybe they were saving it, perfecting it, creating a species that could finally survive itself. No more wars, no more collapses, no more endless cycles of rise and fall, dream and ruin, just order, stability, survival. I thought about everything we had lost, cities reduced to ash by greed and war, oceans poisoned by short-sighted ambition, children dying in conflicts started by men who never bled. Was that worth preserving? Was our chaos worth fighting for? And yet, when I closed my eyes, I didn't see order. I didn't see perfection. I saw a memory. A boy running through a summer field, laughing so hard he couldn't breathe. A girl painting wild colors no one understood but everyone felt. A mother crying at a song her child wrote. A man standing alone against impossible odds, simply because it was the right thing to do. That chaos, that beauty, wasn't a flaw. It was the point. We weren't meant to be perfect. We were meant to try, to stumble, to fall, to get back up again, to fight against the dark, even knowing we might lose, because in the fight itself there was meaning. And so I made my decision. I knew there would be no revolution, no armies rising against the architects of the Purity Directive. Their power was too vast, their plan too complete. But maybe all it took was one voice, one spark refusing to be extinguished, one memory that wouldn't be edited away. I packed what little I had, stole an exfiltration plan from the facility's forgotten emergency files. They had protocols for disasters, breaches, pandemics, but they had no protocol for someone remembering, someone resisting. I knew they would find me. Eventually, their sensors would pick up the deviation. Their networks would detect the anomaly, because that's what I had become now, an anomaly, a ghost of the old humanity. And maybe I couldn't save the world. Maybe I couldn't stop the tide. But maybe, just maybe, I could leave behind a crack, a flaw in the perfect design, a seed buried deep enough that one day, when the clones forget their programming, when they dream dreams they weren't assigned, it will grow, it will whisper, it will remind them, you were more than this. You were chaos, you were alive. And maybe one day, long after I'm gone, that seed will shatter the perfect glass world they built. Maybe humanity will be reborn, not as obedient reflections, but as the wild, stubborn, dreaming creatures we were meant to be. Maybe. Or maybe this is the last voice, the last human thought before the long silence. Either way, I have to try, because even in the end, even standing alone against the machine, I remember. And that is enough.